Bitcoin mining sounds like free money. You buy a machine, it runs 24/7, it prints Bitcoin. Except it's not free, it costs electricity, it generates heat, it's loud. And in 2026, the profitability numbers are brutal for home miners. But some people still make it work. This video breaks down exactly what Bitcoin mining is, what it costs, what you earn, and whether it's actually worth doing from your house. Bitcoin mining is the process of validating transactions and adding them to the blockchain. Miners compete to solve complex mathematical puzzles. The first miner to solve the puzzle gets to add the next block of transactions to the chain. As a reward, they earn newly minted Bitcoin plus transaction fees. This is how new Bitcoin enters circulation. It's also how the network stays secure. Mining isn't printing money out of thin air. It's securing the network and getting paid for the computational work. Here's the simplified version. Thousands of pending transactions sit in the mempool waiting to be confirmed. Miners grab a batch of those transactions and attempt to add them to the blockchain. To do this, they need to find a specific number called a nonce that, when combined with the transaction data, produces a hash that meets Bitcoin's difficulty requirement. Finding this nonce requires trillions of guesses per second. Whoever finds it first wins the block reward. Everyone else starts over on the next block. It's a computational race that never stops. You cannot mine Bitcoin with a regular computer anymore. Bitcoin mining requires specialized hardware called ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits. These are machines built for one purpose: mining Bitcoin. The most common models in 2026 are the Antminer S21 and the Wattsminer M60. These machines cost $3,000 to $8,000 depending on efficiency and hash rate. They consume 3,000 to 5,000 watts of electricity. They sound like a jet engine. They generate enough heat to warm a room in winter. This is not a laptop sitting on your desk. This is industrial equipment. Mining profitability comes down to one number: your electricity cost per kilowatt hour. If you pay 5 cents per kWh, you might profit. If you pay 15 cents per kWh, you're likely losing money. Most residential electricity in the US costs 10 cents to 20 cents per kWh. Industrial miners negotiate rates as low as 3 cents to 5 cents per kWh. You're competing against people with cheaper power. Example: an Antminer S21 running 24/7 at 12 cents per kWh costs roughly $100 to $130 per month in electricity. If it mines $150 worth of Bitcoin, you profit $20 to $50. If electricity is 18 cents per kWh, you're losing money. Bitcoin adjusts mining difficulty every 2016 blocks, roughly every 2 weeks. If more miners join the network, difficulty increases. If miners leave, difficulty decreases. This keeps block times at approximately 10 minutes. What this means for you, as Bitcoin's price goes up, more miners join because it's profitable. Difficulty rises. Your share of the rewards shrinks unless you add more machines. You're on a treadmill. If you don't keep upgrading hardware, your earnings decline even if Bitcoin's price stays flat. Every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years, the block reward gets cut in half. In 2020, it was 6.25 BTC per block. In 2024, it became 3.125 BTC. The next halving around 2028 will cut it to 1.5625 BTC. Miners earn half as much Bitcoin for the same work. Unless Bitcoin's price doubles, profitability gets cut in half. The 2024 halving wiped out tons of home miners who couldn't survive on reduced rewards. This is a predictable event. You need to factor it into long-term plans. Let's run real numbers. You buy an Antminer S21 for $5,000. It produces 200 THS, terahashes per second. Network difficulty is at all-time highs. You're competing against exahashes of global mining power. Your machine might generate 0.00015 BTC per month, worth roughly $13.50 if Bitcoin is at $90,000. Your electricity costs $120 per month at 12 cents per K. You're losing $106.50 per month. After 1 year, you've lost $1,278 and you're nowhere near breaking even on the $5,000 hardware cost. It makes sense if your electricity is cheap or free: solar panels, hydroelectric, subsidized power. If your electricity is under 5 cents per kWh, home mining might be profitable. It makes sense if you're mining for Bitcoin accumulation, not fiat profit. You're willing to mine at a loss because you believe Bitcoin will appreciate more than the dollars you're spending on electricity. It makes sense as a hobby or learning experience. You're not trying to make money. You're running a node, supporting the network, and understanding Bitcoin at a deeper level. Industrial miners operate at scale. They have warehouses with thousands of ASICs. They negotiate cheap electricity contracts. They buy hardware in bulk at discounts. They have cooling infrastructure. They have technicians maintaining equipment 24/7. You have one machine in your garage. The unit economics are completely different. Industrial miners can profit at difficulty levels that destroy home miners. This isn't a fair fight. You're competing in a professional industry with hobbyist equipment. Solo mining means you try to find blocks alone. At current difficulty, a single ASIC would find a block once every several years if you're lucky. That's feast or famine. Mining pools combine the hash rate of thousands of miners. When the pool finds a block, the reward is split proportionally based on contributed hash rate. You earn small payments daily instead of hoping for one big payout. Pool fees are typically 1% to 3% of earnings. For home miners, pools are the only realistic option. Solo mining is a lottery ticket. ASICs allowed. 70 to 80 decibels. That's vacuum cleaner or lawnmower levels running 24/7. You cannot have this in your living room, garage, basement, or shed only. They generate massive heat. 3,000 to 5,000 watts of power becomes 3,000 to 5,000 watts of heat. In summer, you need ventilation or your machine overheats and throttles. In winter, it's free heating, but your electricity bill is still brutal. This is not passive income equipment. It's loud, hot, and requires monitoring. Cloud mining companies let you rent hash rate remotely. You pay them, they run the hardware. You get a share of the Bitcoin mined. This sounds convenient. It's also where most scams live. Many cloud mining operations are Ponzi schemes. They pay early investors with new investor money, not actual mining revenue. Then they collapse. Legitimate cloud mining exists, but the margins are thin. After fees, you'd usually make more money just buying Bitcoin directly. Cloud mining is almost never worth it. Mining income is taxed as ordinary income the day you receive it. If you mine $100 worth of Bitcoin, you owe income tax on $100 even if you don't sell. Then, when you do sell, you owe capital gains tax on any appreciation. You're taxed twice. You need to track every single payout, the fair market value on the day you received it, and report it. For home miners earning $50 per month, the accounting headache isn't worth it. For industrial miners, you hire a tax professional. This is another reason home mining is painful. Some home miners get creative. They vent ASIC heat into their home for winter heating. They heat water with exhaust air. They dry crops or lumber. If you can use the waste heat productively, the economics improve. You're paying for electricity anyway. If it replaces your heating bill, the net cost drops. This requires setup. You need ducting, ventilation, and space. But it's one way to make home mining less financially painful. Mining hardware loses value fast. New, more efficient models release every year. Your $5,000 ASIC might be worth $2,000 after 2 years if difficulty increased, and newer models are cheaper per terahash. This is depreciation you need to account for. When you calculate profitability, include the fact that your hardware will be worth less when you're done. You're not just paying for electricity, you're also losing capital value on the machine itself. Most people approach mining as free Bitcoin. That's wrong. You're buying Bitcoin with electricity costs. If your electricity costs 12 cents per kWh and you mine Bitcoin at an effective rate of $120,000 per BTC in electricity costs, you're paying a 33% premium over just buying it on an exchange at $90,000. Mining only makes sense if you're getting Bitcoin cheaper than you could buy it. Run the numbers before you commit. Some people mine at a loss intentionally because they want to support Bitcoin decentralization. Every home miner is one more node contributing hash rate outside of industrial control. If you're wealthy enough to subsidize mining as a philosophical stance, fine, but don't lie to yourself that you're making money. You're paying to participate in securing the network. That's noble. It's not profitable. For 99% of people reading this, don't mine Bitcoin from home in 2026. Just buy Bitcoin with the money you would have spent on hardware and electricity. You'll end up with more Bitcoin. You won't deal with noise, heat, or maintenance. You won't have tax complications. Mining made sense in 2010 to 2015 when you could use a regular computer. It made sense in 2017 to 2020 if you had cheap electricity and got in early. In 2026, it's a professional industry. Unless you have free electricity or you're doing it as an educational hobby, skip it. If Bitcoin hits $200,000 and difficulty hasn't doubled, profitability could return briefly. If you get solar panels producing excess power, using that power to mine makes sense since the marginal cost is zero. If you live somewhere with naturally cold weather and cheap electricity, the economics improve, but these are edge cases. For the median person paying median electricity costs, home mining is a money-losing hobby. Take the $5,000 you would have spent on a mining rig, buy Bitcoin at $90,000. You own 0.055 BTC. Over 1 year mining at current rates, you'd mine maybe 0.0018 BTC while spending $1,440 on electricity. You end up with 0.0018 BTC, and you're down $6,440 total. If you just bought Bitcoin, you have 0.055 BTC, and you're only down the $5,000 initial investment. When Bitcoin appreciates, the person who bought has 30 times more Bitcoin than the person who mined. The math is brutal. Comment buying if this convinced you to just buy Bitcoin instead of mining, or mining anyway if you're doing it for the learning experience. Next video, I'm explaining Bitcoin halving cycles, where we are in 2026, and what history says happens next. Subscribe to Unbanked. The old money had a head start. You have the internet.